As a visionary female founder, what could you do with an extra $10,000, $50,000, $100,000? You can get that storefront location you've been eyeing for over a year. You know, the one with the heavy foot traffic? You could hire new staff members. You can get that software that's going to help you with your CRM processes. The possibilities are literally endless. The problem is you don't know where to start, and honestly, you don't have the time to research what grants are out there, what you're eligible for, when to apply, who to reach out to. As a busy CEO, time is money. And being a busy CEO myself, I understand the struggle. That is why I created the Funding with Foresight Matrix. This is the only database available that brings ease and access to money that you can use to grow your business. You have millions of dollars worth of opportunities that you can pursue as a business owner. This is the only industry categorized database available, and you don't want to miss out. It's a no fluff approach to grants research, and the waitlist has just launched. Check the show notes down below to be one of the first people to be made aware of when it actually drops. It has a year's worth of opportunities, and best of all, I'm going to be updating it regularly. That way you always have fresh grants to apply to as you implement this into your funding strategy. Go ahead, get yours down below in the show notes. Visionary, thank you so much for joining me here for another episode at the Nothing for Granted podcast. Today, I have a very special treat with you as I am hosting this episode with Ingrid Lucas. You guys know how I roll. There's no way that I could possibly do my guest justice. So I'm going to let Ingrid have the floor so that she can share with you a little bit about herself and why she's on the podcast today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Happy day, everyone. Today's a Wednesday, and it's a nice hump day, and it's great to sync up with another awesome woman. My name is Ingrid Lucas, and I'm actually a speech pathologist by trade. I have my own private practice since 2011. I've been a speech therapist since 2003. So many years now. I've always just focused my life on helping people and was in healthcare related. So I opened my private practice in 2011. And when COVID hit, I lost everything. I had to shut down, lost all my clients. But I had this really cool side hustle that I had started helping charities fundraise. And it was with One Hope Wine, and started just doing more online work and reaching out to charities. And this side hustle of mine just turned into my job, and my job turned into my side hustle. It was just a natural change and a natural fit to help people, but just in a very different way. In terms of funding, and which is so desperately needed, you know, as I was reaching out to people more and more through the pandemic. You know, many nonprofits couldn't fundraise the way they typically did with any dinner galas, golf events, tricky trays, raffles. All those things come together and add up and layer to funding, and they just didn't have access to that at that point. So they're hurting, and they're still hurting and recouping, and it's really great just to have this as a job, if you want to call it that. I don't feel like it's a job. It's just something I have fun doing with helping them fundraise. Thanks.
That is so awesome. There's so many things that I want to start unpacking here because you mentioned that this kind of started as a side hustle. How long have you been fundraising, kind of doing that? Would you call it like a hobby, or would you call it, was it always a side hustle?
Yeah, you know, exactly. All right. So I joined One Hope Wine a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago now. For those of you who don't know, One Hope Wine is a Napa Valley winery, and it was built for the sole purpose to help nonprofits fundraise. That's it. That's the only reason why they exist. And we can talk more about that and how that works as we move on. And so it was a natural fit for me. I'm a big foodie as like my hobby. I love wine. And so it was a fun thing for me to add to my life. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. Let's not hide this. I'm a mom of 3. And honestly, I joined with one hope, literally because I could pay myself commission for my own wine drinking. Like it was just this fun thing I did on the side. I was like, oh my gosh, I can make commission off my own cocktails. Like sign me up for that. And but then as I started talking about it, learning more what I could offer to people through wine and charities and the need that is so there, it just kind of started snowballing. And I really just learned a lot over the last year and a half what charities need, what difficulties they're facing, other ways they could fundraise, and helping connect the dots a little bit for them. Yeah, but that's how I got started. I know.
I love that connection of wine and philanthropy. Like, who would even think of that? That's so ingenious. And yes, for finding ways to sustain our habits. Like,
I know.
sometimes we got to get creative. I love it. I love it.
The give back was just the icing on the cake. I've always been someone to want to help people, volunteering my whole life for different causes, and even dedicating my career to helping people with disabilities and diseases. And so when I could easily incorporate some type of give back in my own wine, it was like win-win. 2 boxes checked off there, like no brainer.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's really where it starts, right? Is finding an organization that you're passionate about, because you're going to have longevity, right? It's not like when you go volunteer at like a food pantry, and that's not really where your heart is. You're doing it just because, well, good deed for the year, checked off, right? But when you find an organization where you're like, wow, I really can get behind this mission and I can use my skills to help them help other people. Yeah, heck yeah. And it's like you said, that's a double whammy, because now you get a benefit out of it as well, and not just like personal self-fulfillment on the inside. So talk to us a little bit about, how did you get started in fundraising as somebody who maybe didn't know? So if somebody wants to get into this, if someone has their own nonprofit and is saying, you know what, Ingrid is totally right. Times have changed. We have to learn a little more about how to fundraise online. Tell me about tactically, how did you start transitioning, making that shift from solely in person and presential to digital?
Here we are in 2020, and the reality is, when work tanked for me with COVID and my private practice, it was a big eye-opening experience to realize, like, we have to have multiple sources of income, whether you're just a family, you're a nonprofit, and there's, a stable table has 4 legs, right? And being stable financially. And so it was a win-win, like helping the charities get a little more stable and connecting with them to add some funding. And it's also, here we are in 2022, everyone embraced the internet and being online, and we have to use it as a tool. And it is a great tool to connect. I never would have ever met as many people or done as much things and connected with so many people if it wasn't for the computer. It's incredible to me. So there's so much you could do from home. I was stuck homeschooling my kids remotely, right, when the pandemic hit. And I just started picking up the phone and just talking to one charity at a time. It got started with me connecting on a bunch of Facebook groups for nonprofits where people were communicating and trying to collaborate. And there's a whole bunch of tips I've learned, and that's one of many we'll go through. I highly recommend, if a nonprofit itself is new, getting started, trying to figure this out, don't do it alone. Like, partner up, connect with other nonprofits, other people that have kind of gone through and worked through some of this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So collaborating is really important. And, part of when I connect with a charity, I try to link them up with other charities that are similar. Like, for example, I'm currently helping Latina and minority women charities fundraise. And I made sure the 2 of them are connected, because maybe one has figured out some other outside the box ideas that would fit well for the other charity. So it's good just being a people connector and trying to take initiative yourself. I highly recommend. So using the internet, like I was saying, is great. A lot can be done online. And another tip too, like to think outside the box. Not only do you have like online resources for the wine fundraiser, but there are other organizations too that can help fundraise that you don't necessarily get in a Google search or get an idea for. So I joined my local Rotary chapter. And for those of you who don't know, Rotary organizations is international. They're throughout the United States and around the world. And their sole purpose is really just to help people, whether it's financially to fundraise or to do some sweat equity and roll up your sleeves and pitch in. So I highly recommend for charities to reach out to their local Rotary chapter and request a donation, whether it's $500, $1,000. They're always ready, willing, and able to help a local organization.
I love those tips. Facebook group pages are game changers. I think that people for a long time have written off Facebook as like this dying dinosaur. And it's like, no,
a tool.
It's such a tool. If you can figure out how to leverage those groups on a really genuine level, right? Not going in there like super salesy, not going in there looking to just gain, but really going in there as saying, you know, I am an expert in this field and I just want to help. I want to help other people. I want to show that I am an expert and I'm here to just give. And I really believed in the power of, I'm going to bash it because I hear it in Spanish in my head and I'm like, I'm going to try and say it in English, but reciprocity, where it's like, whatever you put out into the world is exactly what you're going to get back. And I found that the more that I give, the more I'm blessed right back. And it's because I'm not expecting anything in return. And so I absolutely agree with what you've said. The more that you go out there and you just connect with people, like you said, your strategy is online, but you took the time to make phone calls. Yeah. It's not just, I'm going to send an email out and hope and pray that this is going to convert. You took the time to really try and make those connections. Can you help guide listeners on what that conversation looks like when you're picking up the phone and calling these potential partners or potential donors for partnership in these fundraisers?
No matter what you do, whether you're running your own business or you're a nonprofit, anything honestly is sales, and it's relationship-based business. Everything's built on a relationship and a give and take and an ongoing conversation. Statistically, it's anywhere from like 8 to 13 touch points with someone before you move forward with anything, whether it's a sale or doing a fundraiser. You're building that relationship. So normally when I reach out to a charity, sorry about that. My husband's talking in the background.
You're fine.
When I reach out to a charity, I really ask, you know, what are your needs? What type of, or how much money are you trying to fundraise? Are you open-minded? One Hope Wine, obviously it's alcohol. Is this a good fit for you? And explain how it works. But I really want to just say hi and understand what it is their needs are. And anyone should just start with that open conversation. Yeah.
I really like that. You really focus on them, right? It's like you said, you need those 8 to 13 touch points, which I really want to stress because I think a lot of us go into this, whether it's a fundraiser or an opportunity to obtain new donors, and we have this mentality that we're going to get it on the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just not realistic. What would you say is, on average, the time frame for a successful fundraising campaign?
A lot of fundraisers went online with what I was doing and selling the wine, and usually they lasted about a month. We do online wine tastings, we make it fun and interactive. But some charities can choose to do fundraising multiple times, especially if you're doing anything online, whether it's with One Hope Wine or other organizations. You can have a long duration open online. now it's really nice because things are going back in person. And so we are, so we're doing more in-person events, and sometimes those are a little more like one and done, like here we are, we bring the wine for the tasting, and every bottle gives back to the charity. So it can be short and or long term or multiple times. And if you have any fundraiser that's a success, repeat that, like do it, make it a thing, make it become a thing. It's always hard to keep like reinventing that wheel and keeping the momentum going. So any type of, I know like, so for example, like the one Catholic school by me does this pocketbook bingo. It's huge success for them. So they make sure now they do it multiple times in a year. You don't always have to think of a new way to fundraise. Pick a few good ones and just run with it,
I really like that. Would you say that how big of a factor would you say that budgeting goes into fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with fundraisers, they look for a lot of donations, right? And I always encourage any charity to reach out to businesses for donations. A lot of companies have a big give back now that they try to almost market, and it is a good marketing tool. Tap into your community and ask those businesses, hey, just even giving a donation without having to do some sort of big event. I know, for example, like my financial guy, the company's Focus Wealth Management, they've given over $1 million back to different charities. So just even taking the initiative to talk to companies in your area, you'll get a better give back. And it's great too, like the other businesses incorporate gifting with a give back. So if you have a company, that likes to do corporate giving to their employees or to any clients they have, that's something I also provide to make sure that if you're buying wine through a company event, it could go back to the charity as well. So there's smarter ways to get a bigger give back. Yeah.
Right. I really like that. I really like these tips. Can you tell us about what would that planning stage look like if someone is starting from square one and they're saying, you know what, Ingrid, this sounds so amazing. It sounds like something that my organization could possibly really do. Can we talk about what the need in terms of capacity is and that pre-planning and that's leading up to launch?
Yeah. So we try to see if they are doing a date in person. So I can speak just from my personal example of doing the wine tasting fundraisers. But in general, I think some of the rules still apply like throughout. You figure out, if you're doing something in person or it's just online, and then the in-person events, you figure out definitely how many people are going to be there, like how much wine do we need to have for everyone for the tasting. Making sure the link is set up through the One Hope Winery. There's a lot of power in that because it's online, right? So not only you could do something in person, but you could share that across the country with a lot of friends and family to really help get the give back. And promoting it online, whether you email people, instant message people, having a Facebook page for the fundraising event. And I help a lot in terms of providing flyers, professional photos, all those things to help promote it. I think the biggest challenge for a charity is realizing in a way you are running a business. Just because you put a flyer out, it's not one and done. Like you have to constantly be in people's faces, like, please buy, please attend, please get your ticket. And it's multiple like ongoing times that we focus on. So I have an event coming up May 1st for a fundraiser in person. It's a Mother's Day brunch fundraiser. And we're going to spend the whole month of April like promoting it to their base of people every week, multiple times in a week, because it takes a lot of time for someone to see something, to take action and, buy the ticket, come, make their reservation, all those things. So I always highly encourage charities to make sure it's not a one and done thing. I see that happen a lot, we posted the flyer, we told everybody about it, and then like people don't come, right? So part of my job is helping to support and make sure that the charity's doing all those steps in between to make it a successful fundraiser online and or in person. And there's other companies too. There's other outside the box ways. I wanted to mention, because not everything has to be to an event. There's a company called Match Me Partners, which I've met this year. And it's almost like the One Hope wine lady of real estate. There's a way through buying and selling homes, and so many people are relocating, that she gives back to charity through her company. It's amazing. So even without having an event or doing wine, there's other options that I really always try to help connect my fundraisers with as well.
Before we move on to what it's going to take in terms of staff capacity, I really just have a question for you. Is this only, or would you say these tips are only for nonprofit organizations and charities, or would you say that these are applicable also to my small businesses that are just trying to raise capital to start showing investors that they have a sustainability plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of rules can apply across the board, whether you're a nonprofit or for business, like for-profit business. You're always trying to find ways of who to connect to, where to get money and resources, how to make money to fund anything, right? Whether it's payroll or to give to the charity to support the needs of the people for whatever the cause is. It really boils down to a lot of the same planning. And I think charities just struggle with that a little more. They're not, maybe not everybody's, the pool of people you get tend to be more volunteers, right? So the time that's put in sometimes can be hard for a nonprofit to delegate versus if you're a for-profit company, right? Like you're working those 9 to 5 hours, you have, a pool of people that are more business minded. And, so make sure you always set goals no matter what. Businesses, when they're set, right, they have their mission statement, they have financial goals, they write them out. And, a charity does the same thing. And I try to help them sort of figure out that game plan a little bit when we talk about doing a fundraiser, to make sure we're walking in the right direction, what the long-term goal is and what the short-term goal is. Yeah.
Can we talk about that? I think that a lot of people, especially within my immediate circle, I've seen that a lot of my small business friends, they'll have events and they will just willy-nilly have the event and, kind of close their eyes and say, hopefully I made a little more than what I invested. And for me, it's like, well, no, I need to know what my expected ROI is on this. I need to know kind of where I'm breaking even and where I'm hitting that profit goal. So how would you say that you go about creating these goals, and how can listeners create goals of their own to make sure that their fundraisers are being effective?
Yeah, I try to let them know, let's not make this event, like a one and done thing. Let's make sure we can do this multiple times. So it becomes a thing that's associated with your base of people. Okay, so I know I can always buy my wine through the charity link here, and every bottle is going to donate back. Like you want to sort of make that association and that connection. And I think really just putting it out there for the charity, don't try to just do these shots at one shot in the arm here, one shot in the arm there, try to have some continuity with that and keep things ongoing. It can be mentally draining, and you're always planning and it doesn't always have to be so hard. And I think when you can talk to a charity and open them to other ideas that are easier ways and fun ways to fundraise, it's sort of motivating. Mental mindset is huge with working with a charity, and especially now if they're struggling, they want money and things haven't been so easy, sort of being almost like their cheerleader can really get the ball rolling a lot. And connecting them with other people that are in the same boat. Like I said, if I can be that middleman to connect and collaborate, that's a big piece of the puzzle. And showing them other ways to fundraise. So it's not just not just the wine or not just, the tricky tray event. It takes multiple sources of income, right? As we're circling back to that same thought, you have to have many ways that you can fundraise, and be consistent with it. So, and using social media is a big tool. It really is huge. I can't stress it enough. So many people are online and using it. I also highly encourage, as I've networked, there are a lot of companies now, or I should call them like consulting firms, that this is what they specialize in: grant writing, figuring out what your needs are, helping you plan those long-term and short-term goals. Do we need to do mailers? Is it an email, like flyer versus like snail mail, I should call it, but like a mailed flyer versus an email versus a phone call? All those things. I always recommend a consultation company as well. If you go on to, there's a website, and it kind of vets a lot of them out, and it talks about what they bring to the table. It's allysterling.com, which is ALYSTERLING.com. And it lists out a whole bunch of different consulting firms that solely help nonprofits to figure out how to fundraise better. Use it, tap into it, research which ones are a good fit for you, which company, which consulting firm might be local. Again, we have the internet, so I don't know how much that matters if you need someone down the street versus you could just have a Zoom, but they all bring so many good things to the table with helping a charity plan it out in detail.
Nice. Thank you so much for that resource. I'm going to add it to the show notes down below so you guys can check that out. I do want to discuss, you mentioned earlier that there's been instances where some nonprofits, they're not hitting their goals. They're not really making the money that they really set out to make. How do you navigate those situations and those conversations? Because as grants professionals, that's common, right? You're not going to get every single grant. That's just not realistic. And so learning how to navigate your mindset, right? As a professional, in that, no, I know what I'm doing, but there's so many elements that are outside of my control, right? How do you navigate that conversation? How do you navigate that mindset as a professional? And what tips would you have for up and coming nonprofit founders?
Yeah, I think just recognizing it and talking about it, it helps. Like, everyone goes through those ups and downs. So just even identifying it and letting them know that they're not alone is a relief. And when you can connect them with people that are in the same boat, other charities, to collaborate, it does help that mindset, and helping them plan long-term for the year. Talking it through a little bit, helping them to set some goals up, like, just asking. Sometimes people don't take the time just to sit and talk it through with someone else. They're trying to do things on their own. What is your long-term budget for this year? Are you halfway there? Are you at $0? What is the money going to go towards? And then also just, people love to help. Honestly, like, no matter what you do, asking for help is huge. And I'll say, okay, who can you reach out to and ask to say, promote this event for me? Or can you just share my link and talk about what it is we're doing? Just to spread the word is even sometimes like critical. I have to say, it does amaze me how often people just don't even share information or talk about it or post for someone. I have a fundraiser going right now currently, and we have a Facebook page for the fundraiser event. And I've personally reached out to every single individual in this event. It was over 100 people, and not one person had shared the link or the fundraiser or the cause to any family or friend member. And that was the ask. It was like, it's not even asking to buy. It's like, can you just help spread the word? It'll take you 30 seconds. And I think if a nonprofit can just be maybe a little more direct with asking for help and being very specific with what you need. Oftentimes, I think people just assume that people are going to do that, and they don't. So I would say to any nonprofit, even just being very clear with what you're asking people to do is huge. And following up on that, like, hey, did you send the link to anyone? Because nobody wants to say no. Nobody wants to feel like they're not helping, right? So ask. Yeah. Be clear and just ask.
Love that. I think that you raised such a good point in the power of the ask. Like,
Yeah.
it's surprising to me. That was my word for last year. And I would always just ask myself, what would happen if you just asked? Like, what do you have to lose? They're going to say no.
Right.
You ask somebody else.
You know what we say with the leadership team with One Hope? Why no one's insulted by an invite. No one, like, honestly, invite them to anything and ask them for anything. It's not insulting, it just either falls on deaf ears or you're going to get moving forward. And the more the reality is, no matter what, nonprofit or business, the more conversations you have, the more meaningful connections you have and make, and the more you keep moving in the right direction, the more momentum you keep getting. So the more conversations I have with charities, the more I'm going to learn and figure out other ways to help, right? Just have to keep connecting and just having those meaningful conversations every day, even if it's just one person.
When we talk about having meaningful conversations, how would you initiate that relationship with someone? If I have a lot of people that reach out to me and they say, I know you talk about, like, I need to tell people what I do every single day, but I'm an introvert and I'm shy and I don't even know where to start. So if someone is an introvert and they don't even know how to begin that conversation towards building a meaningful relationship with leadership or anyone really, where would you begin? What tips would you have for them?
Oh man, I think a lot of us feel that way. And it's funny, it's a conversation through my leadership team with One Hope Line. We talk about a lot, like, how do we reach out? Who do we reach out to? And I don't think there's one right or wrong answer. And it's one of those things, it takes a lot of practice, especially if you feel like you're an introvert. It takes practice to sort of get out of your comfort zone, but you have to do it. So like I even was saying just a minute ago, even if it's one conversation a day. So when I first started, I was, sitting at my hair salon and I was sharing about a charity and what I'm doing with the lady doing my hair. Then it kind of got to me practicing and talking about it. I was at the checkout with the cashier lady at the grocery store and you're sitting there bagging. It takes a few minutes and just forcing myself to just have that one conversation. Like, hey, I'm helping this charity out. Have you ever heard of it? And not even asking for anything, but just sharing, because you never know where it could go. A lot of times it goes nowhere, but you never know. Don't prejudge people. Getting comfortable with expanding your friends on Facebook. Definitely try to have a bigger base of people that are in your network on Facebook and post about it, but be yourself, like be authentic. So like for every charity event and wine fundraiser I'm doing and I post on Facebook, I also just show them who I am, who is Ingrid, right? I post about my family. I post food that I make because I'm a foodie, or where I want to travel to. I love to travel, the whole picture, right? But make sure you're always talking about it. And if someone does comment on like one of my fundraiser posts, I make sure I follow up with each one of those people, excuse me. Hey, thanks for liking my post. Have you heard about this charity? Just something open-ended, right? Just to get the conversation going, not to be salesy, right? It has nothing to do with that. It's just a thank you. And have you heard about this? Just keep it simple. Short and sweet is very important online. I talked about Facebook, using Instagram is huge. So try to use that as a tool. Again, like the same concept, posting the kind of content of who you are and what message you're also trying to get out with your charity. And when people like it, just follow up with them. It's really easy, but practice doing it. I know you don't want to feel like that salesy, pushy person, but You're not. Trust me, you're not. No one has ever been offended by me thanking them and just trying to share some information. And I think if you let go of like trying to sell, and I don't know, like being that salesy person, you let go of that. It's amazing what doors can open sometimes. And I will say, when I do pick up the phone, sometimes I do email charities or companies about the corporate gifting that gives back with One Hope and how I can really help a charity. I will say more often than not, when I talk to someone at a charity or a business, they actually thank me like, oh gosh, thank you for taking the time to reach out because I really could use some help. And that feels great when that happens. So the yeses and the good moments far outweigh when the bad moments happen. And that's what keeps you going.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. You mentioned so many things that I'm like nodding my head like like a freaking like one of those Hawaii, you know, like the Hawaii luau girls on like a dashboard of my car. That's me right now. And it's because recently I'm helping it's pretty much my last client. I stopped taking one-on-one clients and pretty much my last client that I'm wrapping up with, and we're looking for sponsors for her event. And I believe in personal branding. I believe in the power of personal branding because it enables you, like you mentioned, to share all the things that are so unique and authentic to you, but it also gives you that space to share the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making in a really authentic way. So it doesn't feel like it's sales. It's just effortless. It flows because that's just a part of who you are. And so recently I shared on my Facebook page about this sponsorship opportunity. I said, a lot of the people that I know, they have large businesses. I might as well just see what happens. I said, had the great opportunity to go to Miami, just need a couple more sponsors for this incredible event. Here's the view, who wouldn't want to be in Miami for, blah, blah, blah. And the response that I received, I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, why didn't I just
right? You have those aha moments.
Yes, I was like, what? And everyone's like, I send it to my email, send the deck to my email. And I said, why did I not think of this sooner? And then that was one thing. So to your point, just sharing it on your personal page, when people know that you're not trying to push anything on them, and like you said, just sharing information, you'd be surprised how many people actually want to jump on board and be a part of something you're a part of, because it's not even, they don't even need to know about the event. It's just the fact that you're a part of it and they want to support you. That
they know you and they like you, right? That's the point. Yeah.
And then you mentioned also just about like opening up your friends list on Facebook. So on Instagram, my page, both my personal and my business, they're a free for all. They're public. However, my Facebook, I'm very territorial about.
Yeah, I get it. I was too. Yeah. And I'm working on that. It takes practice for me, but I'm doing that. I am actively every day trying to add some new friends every day. Yeah. Why not?
I have my friends list. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know if I want to. There's a couple of people from the nonprofits organization group that I think we're both mutually part of that have added me. And I'm like, I'm so hesitant. But after our conversation today, I think I might just take the plunge and hit accept.
Nothing bad's going to happen. I promise. I promise. And it's something that took me time to learn and get used to doing and practice doing it. And just expanding my network. It's only going to help. Trust me. Like, just go for it. And even like we were talking about, like you mentioned it, like the one and done concept, like even today, let's take this podcast, for example. This is not, okay, all right, I came on, we talked, right? Take care. Thank you for your time, right? I'm going to make sure we continue to stay in touch, ask you, how's it going? Do you need it? Like all of those things. And not because it's fake, because this is what it's about. Like you stay in touch. Let's keep rolling with this. This is great. This is a great start, And
I 100% agree. And I think that it's important when you're in the nonprofit sector for you to really curate those relationships and foster them as much as you can, because we are all moving pieces And where we are today, we may not be, we probably won't be tomorrow, because in the nonprofit world, you are wearing so many different hats.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you never know who you're going to be able to unite forces with down the road. And I've learned that someone like the grocery store lady, you really don't know who she is. You don't know who her connections are. And I agree to what you were saying earlier, just having those conversations with random strangers all of the time until it becomes comfortable.
Yep, all of the time. Yeah, I was doing a wine tasting fundraiser last Thursday at St. Patrick's Day, and it was a big fundraiser, and just been doing Zoom so many times and just taking the initiative and being brave for 10 seconds. So I met this lady there, and we hit it off. We just had a fun conversation. And instead of saying, nice to meet you, give me your business card, and then who knows, right? I said, oh my gosh, like, would love to meet up and have coffee with you. So I'm actually, after this, like today, we're actually having lunch, and I'm so excited. I'm like, I have a new friend. I have someone to like learn, she just moved to the area. She's trying to learn, and it's great. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but you just have to have like that 10 seconds of bravery just to ask, what was she going to say? No, like, then fine. So.
You know what? That's a real life call to action. Like, I love that, because I think I had read a book about that said any conversation that lasts more than like 20 minutes, you need to invite them for coffee, because you don't know. We have such long lives and short lives at the same time that it's like, you really don't know where people have been, what they know, what you can add a value to them.
Yeah.
Right. I really, before we end here, I really want to give our listeners the opportunity to kind of get to know a little bit more about One Hope and where they can connect with you. And
you have the floor. Well, thank you so much for that. Like I said, I'm with One Hope Wine, and we fundraise with online and in-person wine tasting events. Every bottle gives back to any nonprofit. It's wonderful. One Hope Winery, just a little bit about it. They were built again solely for the giving portion of it, that give back, that every bottle can help a charity. So there's 4 pillars of give back that they love to focus on in terms of health, hunger, education, and clean water. So in addition to connecting with the charities that I can connect them to, there's so many that they've helped along the way, regardless of my connections. We've over $8 million to date that we've given back to charities throughout the United States and around the world. One Hope Wine, like, for example, we've built a couple schools abroad, one in Guatemala, one in Laos, helping to replant the rainforest, you name it, veterans causes, cancer research, everything in between. It's a joy. It really is a joy. I love doing what I do and just sharing the information. So my link will be below, my direct link for One Hope Wine. It's really easy. It's onehopewine.com/my-shop/Ingrid-Lucas. And we'll put that in there. So it's an easy way to connect with me online. And my email will be there. It's ingridrlucas@gmail.com. And again, I can help any charity, like I said, online, anywhere in the country or locally, to do anything in person. And also just to help connect the dots in other ways other than just wine. It's a great opportunity and a lot of information to support a charity in any which way, right? Planning, financially, helping them to connect with other charities and just empower a charity. Yeah.
So good. Ingrid, thank you so much for being here today. I know that, listener, if you did not have a pen and paper on hand while you were listening to this podcast, you're going to have to re-listen, grab your laptop, grab your pad and a pen, and take notes, because there was so much fire that Ingrid spit throughout this entire episode. It was so good. Please be sure to check out the show notes down below so that you can just acquire all of those resources. If not, check out the blog post where we'll have the transcription. And of course, be sure to check out all of the ways that you can connect with Ingrid and One Hope. And thank you so much for being here. Many blessings on you. And I will catch you in the next episode.
Take care. Have a great day.